This is with James English.
Boom, we're on. And today's guest, we've got a top G, man. Andrew Tate, how are you?
It's been a while, friend.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years. Is that how long it's been?
Yeah,
Man, it's crazy how life has changed in 2 short years. It's only been 2 years?
2 years.
Wow. Crazy.
2 years, mate. If I they probably thought that it was me who'd been in and out of prison, mate, but it's yourself.
First time for everything. I mean, that was an experience. Certainly interesting. I've only ever been arrested once before in my life. And then the second time I was arrested, I had to do a nice long stint in a Romanian jail cell. So that was certainly an interesting experience. But all you can do is learn from it and move forward, right? So,
Yeah, it's no secret. Listen, I've had your back from day one.
Yep.
I've still got your back now.
yep.
A lot of people would have turned their back, and yeah, you can kind of understand that. A lot of people are fearful.
Yep.
When I first met you, what annoys me is when I first met you, before the podcast, you had said to me, do you want to have some fun? I didn't really know what you meant, and you did. You had some fun. A lot of your stuff is comedy, and it annoys me when people cut up the clips, show those clips as something that you're meaning. You
Yep.
genuinely did not mean a lot of the shit you say. I've been in your company many times now. You're so kind to everybody, and this is what I always state. You're polite, you're kind, and you're generous.
Thank you.
Always checking in, is everything okay?
Yep.
For me, that's
That's something I hear a lot from people who know Andrew Tate personally, that in person he's very nice, kind, considerate. He makes sure everyone around him is okay. Nothing like the media makes him out to be.
you don't get that now. But do you see how your stuff was all took out of context though?
Yeah, well, comedy's not allowed anymore, is it? Right? So comedy's not
True.
allowed, and sarcasm's not allowed, and you're not allowed to say anything that could possibly be misconstrued as something that it doesn't mean. Like, the world we're living in is just insane. And it's crazy because they truly assume people are more stupid than they are. I think most people are very well versed to understand when somebody's making a joke and when something is sarcastic and when something's taken out of context. And, like, especially, you know what I feel like? I think it's like the English in me, because I'm half English, especially the English. That's all we do is take the piss. That's all we do is like say things and exaggerate things and make fun of each other. Americans are all like, oh my God, what did you just say? It's like, that's just our culture. It's how we are. I'm not saying I didn't mean a lot of the things I said, but it's certainly difficult now to live in the world I live in and that we live in, where absolutely everything can be used against you all of the time. It's kind of...
Well, I think that's why he blew up like he did, because he means what he says, but he says it in a way that's going to garner attention. So he says crazy things that can be taken out of context, but a lot of his stuff is meaningful.
scary.
Did you ever realise how big you would have got, the most Googled man on the planet, worldwide news yesterday? Did you ever see that vision?
No. I mean, I knew I'd be big, and I knew I had a message. I knew that people would pay attention to it. But the idea that I'd become the most famous man in the world, I didn't see. But I think the reason that's happened is because I've become an anti-hero. But to be a hero, you need to have an enemy. And my enemies have made themselves so visible. And I've also called for a very long time the moves my enemies were going to make. And they continue to prove me right. And when they prove me right, they prove their existence, right? If I sit there and say, the Matrix is after me, and the Matrix is going to do this, and then it happens, well, then they prove their existence. So I am now in the middle of a battle, and battles are certainly entertaining. They've always been entertaining. And I'm not just an influencer. I'm a guy who's engrossed in a battle. And I think a lot of people find affinity in my
And that's
message and
making him
understand that
even
me
more
fighting this
popular.
war is in many ways fighting for all the men on earth. It could happen to anybody. So they've made me bigger and bigger. And it's kind of like the attempt to shrink me and destroy me has done the absolute opposite. And here I am.
What is the Matrix to you?
It's actually interesting because I get asked that question all the time. But there's certainly a cabal of people who have mass influence over the world who are not people we elect or know their names. I would never kill myself. I'll start by saying that. And I don't have a direct beef with these people. That's what's actually interesting. If you're a billionaire or you're an extremely important person from an extremely important family and you're born into this degree of power and wealth, you're going to wield it and you're going to use it. That's human nature, right? You can't expect somebody to have that kind of influence and not use it. Totally respect and understand that. But then I've become massively influential and they see my influence as a counter to their narratives. So as it's always been since the dawn of human time, when you have a counter narrative or a counter influence, you aim to destroy it. It's always been that way, right? The English and the Scottish, it's counter narratives, and you go to war. So I have a narrative which is countering their narratives that they control, and they feel like that I need to be punished for that. And they're massively influential and powerful, and now I find myself in the position I'm in with a matrix attack. And unfortunately, the law is so complicated in most countries on earth for a reason, right? They don't make the law like the 10 Commandments. Don't steal, don't kill. They don't make it simple. They make it extremely complicated and subjective and difficult to understand, and you need lawyers and all this. And the main reason for that is, one, so that certain people can get away with certain things, depending on what kind of lawyer you have. And two, so that it's subjective enough that it can be used as a weapon. The law can be weaponized.
Yeah,
I would argue,
true.
even though you're probably one of the nicest men I've ever met, if they were to take the entire book of law and look at it and get legal experts in an attempt to hit you with crimes, they'll find crimes. This could be maybe,
true.
that could be maybe, this and his friend, that's a criminal group, and it's all subjective, and they just attack you. It's a weapon. It's a weapon that they use. The judicial system, unfortunately, is a weapon that is used to hurt people when they get to a certain level of influence, and I'm not the only one who's been through it. I knew it was coming, and now I'm fighting for my life. It's quite an interesting scenario.
Yeah, it's a crazy scenario. For 2 years ago, you're relatively unknown, 200,000 followers on Instagram, private planes, girls. Listen, the flash life, people bought into it. A year later, you had 6-7 million followers. We look at Conor McGregor now, we look at Neymar, we look at Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Listen, I've been on the front page, call me a woman beater, a thug. A woman says I beat her up at McDonald's. Luckily, I had the CCTV to prove my innocence. There was no charges. There was no fine, nothing, but the paper still went with Fug.
Yep.
I've lost family members to murder. They'll put my name to question to try and tarnish the name.
Yep.
I'm only a man.
And this is something that the media and the government's been doing a lot lately, and that's why I think people are losing faith in the government. People have been lost faith in the media because they just blatantly put out lies and things that aren't true. They manipulate the truth. And I think if the media didn't cover Andrew Tate the way they did, like BBC, his name wouldn't be as big as it is now. They're blowing him up a lot more than if they would have just left it alone.
Man who's changed his life and trying to do better.
Yep.
To interview people, to tell things from their story, without getting things getting twisted, without all the bullshit of the day. See, when you started, when did you realise how big you were getting? From 2 years ago, like I said, 200,000 followers to then, what was that moment you
know
thought?
what's interesting? What's interesting is I can tell you that me and my brother had a conversation when I was in Dubai about 2 weeks before I was arrested. I was sitting there with Tristan. We'd just been canceled, right? They deleted all our social medias, deleted all our bank accounts, deleted our Uber account, our Airbnb account, our Facebook, our Gmail. They delete you from everything at once in an attempt to unperson you, and that didn't work. We weren't unpersoned. They made heroes of us, and we became more famous than before. Yeah. And I was sitting with Tristan in Dubai, and we're in this beautiful $40 million mansion, and we have a Bugatti outside and a McLaren outside, and business is going well. And Tristan turns up, he comes in the house, and there's like 5 beautiful girls, and he's like, oh yeah, just bring some chicks in, whatever. And the waiters are bringing us drinks, and we're smoking shisha and $500 cigars. And I'm sitting there, and I said, Tristan, everything's perfect. And he goes, yeah, I know. I said, we're fucked. We're fucked. He goes, why? What do you mean? I said, there's no way. Life doesn't go this way, Tristan. I'm 36, right? There's no way at 36 I could have just made it and it's fine. Something's going to come. He's like, we'll be careful. None of us are going to die. We'll always roll as a team, all this stuff. We'll up the security and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah. I just had this feeling. I just knew. Week later, I'm in a Romanian jail surrounded by cockroaches. So it's like, it's kind of like the balance and the yin and yang of life. I've always understood that whether it's God or the universe or whatever, it doesn't allow you to just climb. Whatever goes up must come down to a degree. And I knew that some kind of attack was coming. I didn't expect to get hit with this. Human trafficking is insane. It's an insane charge.
I think that's why they
expected
hit him
something
with
else.
it. I mean, that's a charge that will definitely affect the way people look at you. And people will probably look at human trafficking worse than they look at most murderers. But I just think the story they're giving is so far-fetched. I don't see how many people can believe it. If the charges were relevant to the OnlyFans company he had a couple years back, then I think it'd be way more believable. But saying that him and Tristan were human trafficking women in order to make TikTok videos so they could take the TikTok money is ridiculous. That it doesn't make sense.
But now that I've analyzed it and I've been through it, I understand they're trying to slander my name. You can't slander my name with a fucking tax charge. Nobody cares. They're trying to slander my name and make out that I'm a heinous, dangerous, bad person, because they've been trying to do that with the media for the last year. So that's what they're trying to do. And I find massive reassurance in the fact that nobody believes them. It kind of scares me that nobody believes them, because now it makes me wonder what they're going to try next.
Yeah.
But also, it is nice when you're called a human trafficker by the Matrix to wake up.
That's the thing, though. I don't think he's worried about them killing him. And, you know, I've heard some other people say that the government doesn't want to kill Andrew Tate. They don't care about him. I don't agree with that. I think if they could do it and get away with it, they probably would, because he does have mass influence of the young males, the future military males. And but I think because this has blown up so much, he talks about it all the time, that, you know, if he commits suicide, or don't believe if they say he committed suicide, I think the government knows that they could not kill him and get away with it. I hope.
And see 10,000 comments of everyone saying bollocks. It is nice to see that people don't believe it, because I would hate for people to actually believe that about me. And basically nobody does. In fact, I struggle to find anybody who does. If you actually look online.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical products.
Underneath all these stupid headlines, nobody believes any of it, because everybody understands. And yeah, we've grown monumentally big, and now I feel like I have a huge responsibility, and my responsibility is to tell the truth and be a good person and make sure I say things in a way that they can't be misconstrued. But also now, in this particular battle I'm in, I feel like I'm fighting for the rights of every single man on earth, because what they're doing to me has happened to loads of, like you said, famous, influential men, and even worse, not famous, not influential men. How many men are getting wrecked with this garbage that you never heard of?
A lot.
Who knows? I don't know. Do you know? How many?
I had Tommy Robinson on with a man called Mo Rami. He was done for human trafficking and trying to traffic this girl. The girl made it all up, every single bit of it. She got 12 years just a couple of months ago. 12 years she got, and she ruined this man's life. This man's son nearly committed suicide because his dad was getting called a sex case. Wow. So it does happen. There was a video just released 2 weeks ago. A girl was accusing her boyfriend of beating her up, but there was a video of her hitting herself with hammers. Listen, the majority of the crimes come from men, we get it, but there is some devious people out there. The Johnny Depp case is prime example, but that guy lost contract.
Male or female, if someone makes a false accusation on someone like that, especially severe, that person who made the false accusation should be punished. It's if a woman lies about something, if a man lies about something, that's people's lives get ruined over that.
Tracks of hundreds of millions for Pirates of the Caribbean because the accusations that were made. The accusations are just accusations. Charges are just charges. It is innocent until proven guilty.
What if I were to tell you one of the American girls who started all this garbage has accused 7 other men of human trafficking?
That's crazy.
7. How many times can one person be human trafficked? Do you understand where I'm coming from? And you're just telling me about the prison time that people who lie are serving. That makes me feel good inside of my heart, because I believe that the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice. It may take time, but in the end, people who lie will pay the price. I believe that. I believe in truth. And I'm very patient. And I know that justice will be done. But yeah, it's absolutely insane. And it's insane because, yeah, this is happening to me and the whole world knows about it. But how many men lose custody of their children because they're falsely accused of heinous things? Beating the woman or molesting the kids or whatever, right? It's crazy. And yeah, women need protecting. We all agree on that. But I feel like it's a constant balance. The pendulum's constantly swinging, and we're trying to find the medium in which women are safe to go to the police and make genuine complaints and that men must pay the price, but also it doesn't go too far and men can't live a life. And I feel like it's swung too far one way.
I agree.
And the bad thing about that is that in life, whenever you have a pendulum that swings too far one way, guess what happens? It swings too far back the other way. People are getting pissed off with this shit. Constant, never-ending lies about men being rapists. Eventually, it's going to swing back to the point where a woman who's genuinely hurt is going to go to the police and they're not going to care. And that's terrible. That's disgusting in and of itself. But then whose fault is that? That's the fault of all the women who keep lying. So we're in this situation. We're trying to find this happy medium. And it's insanity. And there's absolutely no doubt in my mind, if I wasn't world famous, I wouldn't be going through any of this garbage. But that's also the way it works. Because we talk about the Matrix and how important people are in charge of the world. You can also look at the world in a far less interesting, more benign way. And I'll give you an example of that. You're a prosecutor. You have a job for the government. You're not particularly well paid. You do a job. And this guy stole a Mars bar. Okay, do the paperwork. This guy stole a Mars bar. This guy stole a car. This guy stole a car. Who? I don't know. Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate! Do you understand? There's a degree of, wow. Prosecutors, they get hard on for a famous rich guy. It doesn't even have to be from the tip top matrix. It can just be a prosecutor with a hard on because you're famous and
like
you're
with
rich.
Donald Trump.
And it's interesting. So this entire battle, there's so much I cannot say as I was learning why this happened to me and why certain organizations and countries haven't saved me when they should have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, they say more money, more problems to a degree.
The thing. He was born in the United States. And you haven't heard the government say anything about him being held without charge or, the investigation. But Brittany Griner, on the other hand, they fought tooth and nail to get, and she clearly committed the crime they arrested her for. Was the punishment unfair? Obviously. But, I mean, why would you fly to Russia with marijuana on you? So, it's crazy. The level of corruptness and favoritism and, if you don't agree with the United States government, then you're on your ass.
I guess that's true. But I think all men should be allowed to live in relative safety and live a life which is normal. The things they've accused me of, the human trafficking, which is obviously insane, but look what the BBC printed about me. The BBC said that 13 years ago, I was emotionally controlling to an anonymous girl.
I'll probably
Let's analyze this as professionals.
too.
You're a man, I'm a man. All the men watching. If this person exists, which they don't, if this person is not imaginary, 13 years ago, I was emotionally controlling. What does that mean? Does that...
Nowadays, that could mean anything. Everything is your own truth. Oh, it's my truth. Like, that could literally mean anything. And that's all the information they're giving. He was emotionally controlling. They don't give any other specifications, no evidence, no proof, no nothing. The media should not be able to put stuff like that out to the world with nothing to back it up. That's crazy. That's insanity. He should be able to sue them.
No, I won't buy you a handbag. Does that mean I said, no, you can't go drinking with those guys in the club? Does that mean I said, no, you should have been nice to me on my birthday? What did I do? Don't know. Who is she? Don't know.
Probably never will know.
And they're putting it all over the news and call me a sex criminal? How do I defend myself against such abstract bullshit?
That's
it's garbage.
why they do it that way.
But they'll do it to absolutely anybody. They could say the same shit to you or any other man watching this. They could say 10 years ago you were emotionally controlling to an anonymous female. You are the enemy of the state.
I used to tell girls I played for Man United.
Take him to jail! Take him to jail!
That's not a crime, though.
Bro, but that's the
They'll
thing that's
turn it
crazy,
into
right?
one.
So even with this garbage they're hitting me with, human trafficking. So they come along and they said, oh, you're a human trafficker. I was like, well, I've never transported anyone. I've never kidnapped anyone. I've never restricted anyone. I've never held anyone. They said, no, but you're a human trafficker via the lover boy method. I said, what's that? It's where you pretend to love them. So what, being nice? So I was nice to some girls 10 years ago? Is that my crime? Maybe I did love them.
Yeah.
But we're not together anymore, so what? I pretended? Who said I pretended? Prove I pretended to love.
That's the problem with that charge, the lover boy method. What is the burden of proof? Even if he says something online about it, like, oh, I'm using them, I'm pretending to love them, well, how do you know that that's not a show? How do you know what he truly feels? There is no physical evidence that can be presented either way.
Love, and then what did I pretend to love them to achieve?
That might
The
work
case
in a
against
civil
me
court,
is that
but I mean,
I pretended to
what's
love
the proof
girls
for a criminal
to
charge?
make them do TikTok for money. Please listen to this. That's the case against me. I pretended to love girls to convince them to do TikTok to give me the money. The girls themselves have said that's not true, but they throw away their statements and keep them as victims in the file. That's how insane this is.
Never mind
And
the
they're saying
CCTV
you convince them to do
footage.
TikTok by pretending you love them. And the reason all this garbage has come up is basically because they chose some girls I know who have TikTok on their phone. And here I am, human trafficker. The level of insanity is crazy, and there's so much more I could say, but unfortunately I'm in Romania and I have to go to court.
I don't understand. He's a multimillionaire. TikTok is not paying him enough, or wouldn't pay enough for you to human traffic someone. That's crazy.
And I have to respect the Romanian judicial system, and I have enough faith that the judge is going to look at this and say, well, this is crazy. It's not human trafficking. But yeah, you get so big and they come for you and they come to attack you. So it's scary. And if they're going to do what they've done to me purely because I know girls with TikTok, I'm sure you know a couple girls with TikTok. I'm sure you guys at home know a couple girls with TikTok. Watch out. It's clown world.
What do you think should be in place to protect men more? Do you think we get the rough end of the stick?
Oh, we absolutely get the rough end of the stick. And there has to be some degree of burden of proof. I don't know why with these particular crimes there's no burden of proof. Surely there has to be some legal test. I don't know where a woman's statement alone just is enough. If you go into the police station and say, I know someone who stole a car. What car? I can't tell you what car. There's no car. There's no video. I can't even tell you the registration plate, nothing. But I know he stole it. Is that person going to jail for stealing a car? They're like, okay, so you can't tell me anything about the car. There's no video of the car being stolen. No cars have been reported stolen. You're just telling me they stole a car. No, go away. It's just this one particular crime. I don't know what the exact solution to it is. I guess, I mean, I have daughters. I have many daughters, and when they grow up, the solution to it for me is going to be teaching them to keep themselves as safe as possible. I believe in personal responsibility for men and women. I don't believe that's a gendered argument. I believe women and men should both be as personally responsible as possible and not rely on government or law enforcement agencies to protect them.
I agree with that 100%.
If something happened to my daughter, heaven forbid, and I found out, yeah, heaven forbid, bro. But I find out she was walking through a park alone at night at 4 a.m. The first thing I'll do is I literally, before I plan to kill the guy and find him, because I will kill him, I'll say, what the fuck were you doing walking through a park at 4 o'clock in the morning by yourself? I'm not going to absolve her of all responsibility. I'm not going to sit and go, we live in a society where men shouldn't rape and this is all men's fault and we need more feminism. No, I'm going to say, why did you do that? I would have picked you up.
Yeah, that's a huge problem with society nowadays is there is no self-accountability. People have no sense of responsibility. They think that everything should be handed to them. They think they can walk around and do whatever they want, say whatever they want with no consequences. And that's just not how the world is. It never will be like that. So I agree. People need to take self-accountability over themselves and their actions, their mental health, their physical health, everything financially.
What are you doing? I believe in personal responsibility for all. And of course, there's some scenarios where that won't help. Of course there isn't. But those are the most heinous, violent, brutal crimes where a woman is being responsible and doing the right thing and protecting her safety and is still raped. Well, in those scenarios, most of the men get caught because they're doing actually terrible things.
In my opinion.
But all this subjectiveness of, I was with a guy 10 years ago, I was in love with him, we lived together, we had sex, we celebrated Christmas together, we had a puppy together, it's now been 9 years, and now he's famous, and now he's rich, and I think he once told me something that emotionally made me feel like I couldn't take money from his wallet, and I've been raped, and there has to be a level of sanity reinstalled. But that's assuming the legal and judicial system wants sanity. If you have sanity, then it's much harder to just weaponize it, right? If you have insanity, then you could just make everybody afraid of it and just weaponize it against anyone you choose. What would you do if you were in charge of the world? Not a victimless crime, what's happening to me, because no crime has taken place, and then I'm being persecuted, and that's not a victimless crime. Of course, my brother and I have suffered, but so has my family. My mother suffered, my children have suffered, the mothers of my children have suffered, everyone close to me has suffered. People are suffering because of this. For what? For who? Who are we suffering for? To protect who?
I don't think a lot of people notice that about Andrew Tate. I don't think a lot of people think about him having a woman at home, kids at home, a mom, or any of that. They just think of him as this crazy dude that runs around with all these different women. And no, he has kids. He's got a family.
People who say we're not victims, this is stupid. Who are we protecting? So yeah, there's been genuine heartbreak and a lot of people crying on my side, which nobody seems to give a shit about. Nobody talks about all the BBC and all these garbage and MSN are constantly attacking me, never talk about my mental health. They talk about Philip Schofield's mental health, of course, after 2 days.
Have you ever wondered how millionaires actually become millionaires? And no, I don't mean those platitude answers that they always regurgitate.
After a year of attacking me, they don't talk about my mental health. They don't care about my family. They'll just put her address and dox all my family and just try and get everybody in trouble because I'm not part of the club, right?
At Consumer Cellular, our customer service team is based here in America.
America?
America.
Right? Because I haven't sold my soul. And there's been a lot of people who suffered. And I think that, in fact, in jail, I said it to Tristan. I said, we're sitting here in this hell, but everyone we love at least is taken care of. At least mom can eat. At least the kids can eat. At least the rents are paid. At least we're suffering because men are built to suffer, but everyone we love is taken care of. That gave me some solace. But the way they've attacked me, they didn't intend for that to be true. They intended for me to be bankrupt. They intended for me to be completely destitute and destroyed. They intended for me to sit in a cell knowing that I can't feed my kids. That's what they wanted to do. Just because I've managed to make sure that didn't happen, that doesn't mean it wasn't their intention. Their intention is purely and truly evil. And it makes you wonder, who are these people who want to operate in this way? Who are these people sleeping well at night? But I guess the world's always kind of been that way, hasn't it?
Seeing you were in Dubai, why didn't you just stay there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because
Probably
truthfully, I love Romania. I've been here 7 years. I actually love this country, and it's full of good people. And I have to be honest and say that 99% of Romanians I interact with apologize to me. 99%. People on the street,
I believe
police
that.
officers, correctional officers, the people at the court. Everyone's like, sorry, bro. Everyone understands what's happening. They're very sorry, and it's a good country full of good people. I came here to pack a suitcase, and I got nabbed. And yeah, I knew something was up, but I was more concerned about, some Albanian gangsters or something more than the law, because I know I don't break the law. It's another really interesting paradigm shift, and I think life as you go through it is a series of paradigm shifts. It's a series of having your worldview broken and reconstructed. But one of the paradigm shifts I'm going through is that as someone who never broke the law, really, I never really feared law that much because I'm not a lawbreaker. I mean, COVID to a degree made me understand that you can't be a cuck to the law. You have to be the kind of person who's like, no, I'm not putting that mask on, get fucked. I understood that much, but I never thought I'd ever be genuinely a target of the law because I'm not a criminal. So I never really feared it. And now I have this really interesting
Sad
hobby.
that these days I hate to say it, sometimes you do got to be afraid of the government or the law. If you're not with them, you're against them.
A new hobby
Like
of mine.
Joe Biden, if you don't like what he says, he labels you a domestic terrorist.
Before I go to a country, I investigate the legal system. Like, what happens if I get arrested? What's the jail like in Azerbaijan? Because I'm like, what if I get arrested there? I found out that Japan's legal system's crazy. Japan's got one of the most strict legal systems in the world. They have like a 99.8% conviction rate. You don't get that conviction rate without putting innocent people in jail. If you go to a court in Japan, you're going to jail.
Listen, go to Scotland then, because God forbid if you ever get to jail, you just put a dress on, cut about in a fucking pair of pants with your balls hanging through and you get sent to a women's prison. The system there is fucked.
Wow.
Fucking joke. A kid raped a 13-year-old and got community service. They're starting to change the law where you get the first one, I think it's under 21 for free, basically. It's fucked up. The guy raped two women. Put a dress on. His dick is actually hanging through his shorts, and they're trying to put him in a women's prison because people were more concerned.
That's where the United States is heading. There's definitely going to be men in women's prisons here soon. Sad to say it's crazy. And yeah, they're letting rapists, child molesters get away. They're trying to make being a pedophile legal. They want to make it a minor attracted person. I don't know what world we live in where people think that's okay or acceptable, or how that should be part of the LGBTQ plus whatever. But we need more God in our country. We need more Christian values in our country. Be a lot better place.
Concerned about his feelings. What about the girls' feelings?
And this is the thing that's so amazing to me. So the people who are in charge of the world, the Matrix, and people in charge of these countries, they do that. They have no genuine concern for protecting women, which goes back to my earlier question. Do we want sanity or insanity? Which is what's scary when you genuinely analyze and say, none of this makes sense. We need to change it. Yeah, that's a very optimistic worldview. It's fantastic to view the world and look at a broken system and say, let's fix the system. It's far more daunting once you understand that the system's broken on purpose. It's designed to be broken. They want to convince the world that I am dangerous to women. Me, a man with daughters, with a large sexual history, with no women with a face even coming forward and complaining, with every woman I know who's ever interacted with me defending me. But then, like you said, they'll take a man and put him in a woman's prison. So do they really care about female safety in any regard? No. They're trying to sow a degree of insanity and subjectiveness into a system which is designed to be bulletproof. The whole point of the legal system and the justice system is that it's black and white, on paper. It's not up to interpretation. The good guys go home. The bad guys go to jail, right? As soon as you ingest subjectiveness and insanity and chaos into that system, well, now you've got a real mess. And that's what we currently have. I would argue that if I was a transsexual, which I'm not, I know I'm, that the U.S. Embassy would have had me out of a Romanian jail within 2 or 3 days. They would have called Romania transphobic.
I agree with that also, 100%. Our government would have been sending troops over there to go get him if he said he was trans.
And they would have said that my rights aren't being respected, and they would have pulled me out. But because I'm a heterosexual male, they just left me there.
You've said it there. Everything's a system. As soon as you're born, everything's flawed.
That's the target. Straight, mostly white men. That's the new enemy of the world, it seems like.
Women give birth on their back, which is wrong. They give birth under artificial lighting, which is wrong. They cut the umbilical cord, which is full of nutrients and stem cells, which is wrong. You gave a name, a religion, a race. You're labelled. You're signing birth certificates. Everything is backwards. Kids are coming out drugged up. Everything is wrong as soon as you're born. Sure. Then you go through the schooling system. You're sitting at the desk, learning the World War I's and World War II's. You're not learning about love and understanding of life, money management, fitness, mindset. The whole system is flawed. But when you've got so much power now,
they don't teach you none of that in school. I don't use much of really anything that I learned in school, really. I didn't learn any life skills for the most part. I didn't learn how to manage money. I blew a lot of money when I got out of high school because I didn't know about it. I didn't learn any of that, and I don't think they want you to know that. They want you to depend on the government, and that's why they don't like Andrew Tate. He is helping and teaching young men how to depend on themselves, not depend on the government, not depend on anyone else, and teach them to work hard, keep your mind right, keep your body right. And for whatever reason, they just don't like that.
You can change elections. You're going to become a target.
Completely.
What do you think about the system?
And that's the thing. So for a very long time, I've tried to avoid politics. My way to protect myself was I'll avoid politics. I don't really comment. I think most people can guess my politics, but I don't comment heavily on politics. I don't do political shows. I don't comment on politics very heavily. I thought if I avoided that game, because you're right, I can influence an election. I can say right now who to vote for, and they'll win. That's extremely scary for me, because that means I'm a prime target to kill. Because that makes me a national security threat. I don't think most people understand that once you're deemed a national security threat, all bets are off. If a government says that is a national security threat, they can kill you in the street, they can shoot you, they can put you in jail without charge, they can spy on your entire life, they can kidnap people close to you and try and convince them to turn. Once you're deemed a national security threat, it's like James Bond. He can go do whatever he wants to the bad guy. It's national.
I think they made him the national security threat because without him having the media put all this out, arresting him with these charges, holding him with no evidence they've showed anyone, taking stuff out of the file, they're making a martyr out of him. I mean, they are making people who look up to him like him even more, and making even more people add on to that.
National security. Once you have control of the entire youth of a country, well, then I guess you are a national security threat. I didn't intend to be. I just say the truth, and I find an affinity amongst young men, but they are desperate for me to not have that control. So with that degree of power, I've been very careful talking about politics. I thought, well, let me avoid that game because I don't want to get in too much trouble. Well, and then I've learned now that if you don't choose a side, you just have two enemies. Assuming there's two sides at all. Some would argue there's one side. But if there's two sides and you don't choose a side, now both sides don't like you. So it's difficult. It's hard. I kind of wish we weren't living in a world where speaking the truth was so revolutionary that it causes a revolution. What have I said that's so genuinely revolutionary? I've said the things that we all grew up with and agreed with 20 years ago. Everything that we grew up with in our childhood about how men, women, how a man should be, things we should do, personal responsibility, discipline, hard work. And I've said it in a convincing way. That's it. It's crazy.
So what was the connection with you and Greta Thunberg? Was that any connection, or was it just blown out of proportion?
I think it was blown out of proportion because that was the day I came here to pack clothes and then I got arrested. I think it was blown out of proportion, but Greta is certainly one of the protected class. I don't think many people at home realize, and I'm going to try and explain it as simply as possible, that once you get to a certain level of fame and wealth, the people who are in charge of the world want to also be in charge of you. Because once they're in charge of you, they can allow you to exist because you'll push their narratives. And for you to join their team, you have to sell your sanity. You have sanity inside of your mind. You're a sane person. You're a hardworking person. But you have to take that sanity out and sell it. They'll usually give you a large contract for X amount of million for whatever TV station or whatever company or whatever product. You have to take the sanity out of your brain, give them the sanity, and then you'll take the 20 million, and then you'll say, yeah, that is a girl with the balls hanging out of her dress. Put her in the girl prison. You're transphobic. And you have to just sell your sanity, and then you get to join their team. And once you join their team, you're part of the protected class. And the protected class is protected by basically every institution, but especially the media. Look at Philip Schofield. Guy's a groomer.
Yeah.
Sexual predator. And look, after 24 hours, they're printing photos saying, leave him alone, his mental health, he's on the edge, poor Philip Schofield.
Isn't that crazy? Someone who there's actual proof of him grooming. I don't remember. I think it was a young boy. And they are not treating this anything like Andrew Tate. They're being very kind to Schofield, but they're demonizing Andrew Tate with no evidence, none at all. Most of their evidence is 30-second clips from a 3.5-hour interview that's taken way out of context.
Me, 14 months in, human trafficker, rapist, I haven't even been convicted. Human trafficker, rapist in Romania, must go to jail, rapist, all day, every day. Here's his mother's house. She birthed the rapist. They're attacking me because I'm not joining their team. What most people don't know, and I've tried to make this clear before and I've said it, I've effectively been offered to sell my sanity many times. You don't become as influential as I am with the kind of impressions I get without large corporations becoming very interested in you. I've had very large companies, which I'm not going to name, come along and say, we want to sponsor you. We want you to sell our product. You have to tone down your opinions. Don't talk about this. Don't say this. Don't say this. Don't say this. If you're asked about this, say it this way, and we'll give you $25 million, and you'll shake the product around. And I said, no, I don't want your money. And they were kind of like, okay, well, Your decision. Now, if I was sponsored by a very, very large company, those very, very large companies wouldn't allow the media to do to me
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with
what they're doing, because they call the media and say, that's our sponsor. Don't do that. That's our guy. It's all a big club. All I had to do was sell my sanity, James. All I had to do, cut my balls off, take the sanity out my mind, and take the money. But I do believe at a certain point of money, I mean, I'm not going to brag, but there's nothing left for me to buy. There's nothing I want I don't have. So I don't really care about money. What I do care about is I feel good inside when I know I'm telling the truth.
Yeah.
I feel good inside when I say what I mean. I feel good inside when I wake up and don't feel controlled, when nobody texts my phone and says, you can't say that. I feel good inside when I feel like I'm helping people. That's worth more to me than money. So
Never mind in the eyes of God or Allah. The truth does matter, and God will protect you.
I never sold out. And if I had, I don't think any of this would happen. I think this is punishment for not selling my soul. I think that's why they're doing this to me.
Yeah, I'm at this stage where I'm only climbing the ladder, but I've been offered nowhere near 7 figures, but 6 figures to promote alcohol and gambling.
Yep.
Everybody who knows my story and watches my stuff know that I'm drinking drug-free and gambling-free.
Yep.
Not for life, but just the last 5 years.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, when that gets offered to you, I ain't going to lie, I did think about it.
Of course.
I thought about it, and I thought, then that goes everything that I've worked for, everything that I'm trying to believe in myself and try to help others achieve certain things, because a lot of people crave the external stuff to fulfill the internal stuff that's broken inside of them. And part of me, listen, I wanted fame, attention 5 years ago, because I used to see people on magazines and TV, and I thought, that looks like the life.
Yep.
And then I interview enough people now to realise that's all bullshit.
It is. And it's also delayed gratification. If you would have taken that deal and taken that money, you would have been happy for a week. But 2 months in, when you hear the story of some poor guy who lost his house from gambling, you'd feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And so would I if I did this stuff. I have a conscience. That's the whole thing about this. They have to attack our morality on a level and destroy our to the point where we don't have a conscience. You have to have no conscience to sell your sanity. You have to be a bad person. That's what's so upsetting about my current position. The people who are attacking me are the bad ones. I know in all wars, both sides think they're the good guys, but I have principles and a conscience. They don't have any of these things.
I think they know that. I don't think they think they're the good guys. I think they know they're the bad guys. They just don't care. They want control. They want control, and they don't care who they got to get out of their way to do it.
That's been proved with COVID. COVID is dangerous. Be afraid of COVID. COVID is dangerous. Be afraid of COVID. Don't talk about COVID anymore. Okay. Anyway, on to today's programming. They don't believe any words they say. They don't give a fuck. They just say what they're supposed to say. They just repeat it like parrots. So they don't have a conscience. They don't have morality. They're just talking pieces.
It was the same as at Twin Towers. The woman was reporting the tower falling before it had even fell.
Bro, I don't want to die, so I'm just going to say I heard about that. Very unusual. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's insane. So we're living in this post-truth world, and now this is all happening to me, and I'd like to think, at least, because I have genuinely suffered. I went to jail, and it was only for 94 days, 3 months, just over 3 months. But I would like to say that Romanian jail is about 5 times of English jail. We can put it down to like 1.5, maybe 2 years.
Probably United States jail, too. You know, the jails in America, for the most part, are not bad, especially compared to Romania. I don't know, that's crazy. Laying there with cockroaches, literally 24 hours a day in the cell, he said. He said you don't get out of the cell, nothing. In the United States, it is not like that. It's pretty sweet compared to what it used to be.
Without charge. In English jail, you get to at least leave the room, hang out with the guys. The lads are all right. Yeah. I'm in nobody. I don't speak Romanian. I'm stuck in my cell. My cell was about this from this table to here. This was my room. I didn't leave for 94 days. I don't get to leave. I lived in there with the cockroaches. I genuinely suffered. I went through a lot. And one of the things that gives me solace is knowing that I suffered for a reason, at least. And I think the reason I suffered is to wake people up to a lot of things about the way the world works. The harder they push this narrative and the less people believe them, the less credibility they're going to have to hurt anybody else.
Yeah.
So at least, perhaps, there's a good side to all of this, right? They're going to try every weapon on me to the point where it's so obvious all they do is lie that it's going to be very hard for them to lie again. And hopefully it brings some truth and some honesty to the world. And that's I guess, where I've been trying to find some.
I'll finish the rest of this interview tomorrow. You know, in my point of view, I really like Andrew Tate. I don't believe all the stuff they're putting out about him. You know, I think he's probably a great father. He's a great person. He's helped inspire many young men and probably women also around the world. He's successful, and I wish the best for him. And I'm going to keep covering his story and his content, and, you know, hope everything goes good in court for him.
Solace